All right, Steve, we're back for episode 5 of Northbound. Before we get to it, though, I got a question for you. We've been off for 2 weeks. We've been off for a little while. And normally, whenever we don't hit our normal routine, our usual cycle, folks start asking you, where are you guys at? When's the next episode coming out? But I didn't hear from you at all from the last 2 weeks. So are folks over Northbound? Are we on the decline here, or were they asking you and
Oh,
I just wasn't aware?
I got asked about it, but I didn't want to bother you. You had some nice family time. I saw the photos on Facebook. I didn't want to bother you when you're with your family.
I was enjoying my time northbound when I went up north to see the family, and it was a nice little break. But we got to get back to it, Steve. Are you ready to hop
So
into episode 5 of Northbound here?
let's go.
Let's do it.
You're listening to Northbound, presented by Big Time Hoops. For the North, by the North, Big Time. And now your hosts, Tom Bard and Steve Carmichael.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 5 of Northbound, presented to you by our friends at Katahdin Trust, community banking at its best. Tom Bard, joined by my co-host, Steve Carmichael. As I mentioned at the top, Steve, we've been gone for 2 weeks. And we're almost at the halfway point of the season here. So we're going to touch on a lot of the same stuff we normally do. We'll go over some news from the week that was, some big time performances and some big time games. But I think we're at that point, Steve, where we can go through hill points here and start to see who the contenders are, who the pretenders are, maybe some teams that should hit the panic button, teams we should start taking more seriously. I think we're at that point. So we'll get into that this week on this episode. But before we do, how are you doing? I know you must have had a busy little stretch here. It was a weird couple of weeks here with holidays in the middle of the week, but I'm guessing you're back to regular cadence now.
Back to rolling into a gym pretty much on a nightly basis.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, I was okay with the break, but I'm ready to go over the next 6, 7 weeks because it's going to be a wild ride to the end of the season.
Yeah, you don't stop from now until March.
Nope. Absolutely not. And I don't want to.
You're okay with that. This is your time of year right here.
That's right.
Once New Year's hits, it's go time for you.
Yes, it is. Oh, trust me. I looked at the schedule. My wife and I, we got a whiteboard upstairs where I put my schedule so
Yep.
she knows where I'm going to be every night. Kids know, and it's full.
Yep. I could bet. How were the holidays? Good time with the family?
Oh, yeah. Great. Yeah, it was good. Good time with the holidays. The kids well, I think they got everything they wanted.
Yeah. You
At least they're not telling me.
Well, that's a good thing. If they weren't complaining, if they didn't say they missed anything,
Right.
you probably did a good job then.
Yeah.
Let's hop into it, though. We had a busy week that was starting off with some sad news. So, folks from the county might know this name more than folks from the rest of the state, but a big name in our neck of the woods passed away this past week. Bill Cassavant passed away. Steve, I'm sure you could speak more to his impact and his legacy, having grown up in that community.
Yeah, Bill is he was a mainstay around athletics in Aroostook County. I had the fortune of meeting Bill pretty much right out of college, and he was broadcasting with Town Square 1019 The Rock. He was doing some games on the radio, which he had done for so many years, and of course, he was a terrific baseball umpire. I mean, he started a Aroostook basketball camp up here, and he was just he was number one. He was just a great guy. I mean, he was always available for information or guidance, and I really looked up to Bill, and I always enjoyed chatting with him. And now knowing his kids, Chris and Matt and Nick, his boys, and now his grandson Cruz, and he's got. I mean, it's just he was a basketball guy, and so certainly going to miss Bill. And Cruz had a huge game this past week in overtime. He had 5 threes and 17 points. I know Bill was probably just grinning from ear to ear. So, but I've been thinking of the Cassavant family for sure over the past month or so, and sad news, but just a wonderful man.
Yeah, absolutely. He will be missed, an absolute giant in that community and just the county in general. So we're thinking about his family at this time. Sticking to the county, Madeline Dupre racked up another Big East Player of the Week award. No surprises there, right, Steve?
Nope. I think that's going to be a common theme as we move through the rest of the season. Dupre is off to the terrific start. Caribou is near the top of the standings in Class B, and there's no argument for me.
And we'll talk about it more as we get into it here with the games that happened this past week. But congrats to Madeline on another Big East Player of the Week award. I can only imagine how many she has through the years. I don't know if her parents have a little trophy case or what, but I'm sure they're piling up at this point.
She had a lot last year, and even the year before as a sophomore.
As a sophomore too, she was racking them up. So
She was biggest player of the year as a sophomore and as a junior, and she's well on her way to getting
getting
back
that
to back to
three-peat.
back. Yep.
In other news, there's this kid from Newport named Cooper Flagg. He had 24 points and 11 rebounds for the fourth-ranked Blue Devils yesterday as Duke beat SMU 89-62. They remain undefeated in ACC play. Not sure if you got that one, Steve. I was able to see a little bit of it, and Cooper just doing Cooper things at this point.
I did not get to watch it. I was busy broadcasting, of course, Classic on a Saturday afternoon because I always look at the schedule to see when Duke plays next. I think they play Tuesday in the afternoon or at night, and I'll be gone, so I won't be able to catch that one either. But my wife keeps me updated because she watches every game.
Thank God for DVR at least. You can catch it when you get home at least. So, sticking to the college ranks, the UMaine women picked up their second win in America East play yesterday. As I mentioned, improving to 2-0 with an 87-64 win over Bryant. Paula Gallego and Caroline Bornman led the way in that. So shout out to the UMaine women, off to doing just what they do, Steve, and that's run the America East. And I think they're on their way to being in contention for another championship this year.
Yeah, well, as you said, that's what they do, and they're without they lost Smith, right?
Yeah, lost her for the year.
Yeah,
playing without her, so yep. So, but with the UMaine women, it's always next person up. That's what they do. Exactly. So, and they're just doing what they do. Sticking to the college ranks, so just the teams in our neck of the woods. Umpy men and women are going to be back in action on January 7th. They're going to be hosting Leslie University at home. So our fans up there in the county, you can get out there and check out some college hoops. Steve, does WHOU do any Umpy games? Or are they all in-house at Umpy?
They're all in-house, yeah.
Okay, so you guys can check out their website for streaming information. Go catch some Umpy games. Husson men and women are back in action as well. On Monday, they will host Vermont State University Linden and then on Tuesday, they host Vermont State University Johnson. So the men and women in action Monday, Tuesday, some afternoon games. If you're in the Bangor area, you can go check those out as all these colleges team head into conference play here. So things are going to start getting interesting. And then the UMF men, they went down to Massachusetts for a New Year's tournament. On the 1st and 2nd, they lost to Amherst College 80-60 on New Year's Day, but then beat Springfield College 91-76 on the 2nd. Springfield College just happens to be the home of basketball, ladies and gentlemen. So nice little opportunity for the UMF men to go down there and play where basketball was invented. That's pretty cool. The men and women get back to action on Monday at home. They host SUNY Delhi on Monday and then SUNY Cobleskill on Tuesday. And I did check out my UMFK Bengals to see when they're back in action. For some reason, they don't play again until January 20th. So interesting schedule there. They're off for about a month, but they'll be back in action before you know it. So all of our fans up there in Fort Kent, January 20th is when the Bengals get back to action. As I mentioned, it was a bit of a weird week this past week with the holiday in the middle of the week. Same thing the week before, holiday right smack dab in the middle. But we did have some action and we had some big games. First one I want to show some love to. Brooklyn Raymond from PVHS had a monster triple-double yesterday. 33 points on 9 3-pointers. She is a shooter. If you did not know, got to get your hand up. Whenever you're guarding her, she can let it fly. Also had 15 rebounds and 12 assists in a 99-29 win over Woodland. PVHS rolling here, Steve.
They are. We'll get into them when we go to the Class C girls ranks, but they are, rolling. And I'd like to say, I don't know what their margin of victory is, but I have not seen a close game yet. I mean, 16, I think was the closest. That was Mattanocook.
Yeah. And like you said, we'll get into it a little bit later. They play the defending Class C state champs this week, Dexter, and handled business there, which we'll get into in a little bit. Jaleel Joseph, I believe, had the highest scoring output of the entire season so far in the entire state of Maine. He put up 51 points against my Fort Kent Warriors, but I just want to mention they did lose. My Warriors got the 78-70 win, which we'll get into a little bit later on. But Jaleel Joseph, someone who we talked about, I feel like on every episode, but just continuing to put up big numbers and showing that he's one of the better underclassmen in the entire state.
Well, if you're going to put up 51 points, I mean you're going to get talked about. No doubt about that, whether it's a win or a loss. And I was doing that game, and I was talking to my broadcast partner at the time, and I thought when he got to 44 or 45, I thought it was the highest scoring output game I had ever broadcasted. I was wrong. I forgot about Malachi Cummings, who scored 46 during COVID. against Holton, but then he surpassed that and went to 51. So that was officially the highest game that I have point total I've ever seen in person.
You might have a chance to beat that too. You might catch another one here where he goes off for even more than that. So,
and then and there's been quite a few over the past 15 years or so. I mean, Mitch Worcester's had 2 or 3. Grady Ritchie, who had 59. What is it last year? Walker Oliver had the 64.
Yeah.
But Oliver was the second highest point total ever for an Aroostook County game.
Yeah.
You know the highest total?
It's a guy from Allagash.
Yeah, Mark McBriarty.
Mark McBriarty.
76.
Yeah, 76 back in the day. Yeah.
74.
Yeah, when I saw the 51-point total, which you mentioned to me, you shot me a text, and I was just thinking about this. I've been covering basketball now only for like 5 years now when I got into big time hoops. And I just feel like the 50-point games, the 40-point games that I've seen like in this time frame, like I don't remember it when I was growing up, like seeing this many on a consistent basis. And I don't no one ever put up 51 against us, I can say that, but that is a lot of points, but I feel like we didn't see like the 50s and 40-point games that we're seeing right now. Just a lot of kids that are putting up buckets, Steve.
Well, so I mean, yeah, you talk about how much it's occurring. I mean, I have from 45 and up. The minimum was 45 points on this list as of January 4th, 2025. So as of yesterday. And I mentioned Oliver, Ritchie last year, Jake Rio in 2014 played for Van Buren. Owen Sweeney had 56 last year in a game. Of course, Mitch Worcester had 53 against Van Buren in 2012. Tony Tobin with the 52 for Limestone. I see Matt Rosignol for Van Buren has about 3 or 4 up here. So does Paris. Aiden Jeffers with the 47 this year.
Yep.
Malachi, the 46, and Oliver. Julie Bradstreet. Fort Kent, one name is up there for Fort Kent back in 2020 against Southern Aroostook in a 68-55 win.
Jace
Rocheleau, yep.
Yes, there we go. There we go. I think Aiden's got a chance to climb up that list here, and that's the next thing I want to get to here. Aiden Jeffers from Fort Kent at 31 earlier in the week versus Easton, 32 in that game against Central Aroostook. So I just want to say one thing, Aiden. I don't know if your mom listens. She messaged me after every game, though, lets me know what's going on up there. I need to be added to the list of uncles, okay? So I know you got Uncle Coop, you got Uncle Woog, my buddy. Uncle Tom wants to join that list. I'm adopting you as my nephew officially, okay? So Aiden's my little nephew. Arcilla, let him know I'm Uncle Tom from now on. So shout out to Aiden.
And that was the first time I had really since last year. I only did a couple Fort Kent games, but he's smooth.
Yes.
And when he puts his head down and he gets his shoulder past somebody, and you can tell early like who is a scorer or who's got a scorer's mentality, and they just play a different way.
Yeah.
That dude's a scorer. Yeah. I mean, he's just smart. He uses his body well. And he scores at every level, too. Yeah.
And he's only in 10th grade, only going to get better. That's why I think those scoring numbers, he's going to be putting up some bigger numbers as he goes along here. So shout out to my nephew, Aiden, on his 31 and 32.
Behind the back passes?
Saw the behind the back pass, saw the dunk he had two.
There was 2. He had 2. That was the second one.
Yeah.
He had one in the first half.
I gotta go find that one then. So I should just go watch it so I can hear you on the call as well.
Listen. If you're a fan of defense, that probably wasn't the game for you.
I like buckets, so that would have been the game for me.
As a broadcaster, give me some offense. Yeah. And that was one of the more entertaining games that I've had the pleasure of broadcasting. 78-70,
which we'll get into in a little bit here more in depth. But also this week from PVHS, Riley Moulton put up 29 points in the 65-21 win over Dexter, which we talked about a little bit earlier. We'll get more into depth on that one. So PVHS just loaded. And then another big performance this week, another one of my Fort Kent Warriors, Lily Oliver at 27 against Easton earlier this week in a win, sat out the entire fourth. So another big game for Lily, who's putting up big numbers, and don't look up, but my Warriors are in the mix right now in Class C on the girls' side too. So we'll get into that a little bit later on as we break down the different classes, but big performances all across the board. Love to see it. Love to see people just putting in the work, seeing the results. Great to see. Let's see more of it. Like Steve said, more offense. We want to see more offense. So keep it coming. We had some big games from this past week, Steve. Just a couple we're going to talk on before we get into the actual classes and break down each class. But big one in the Class A ranks, the Brewer boys remain undefeated and improved to 9-0 in the season. Talk about offense. This game did not have it. The final score was 35-32 in that one. As I mentioned, a bit of a defensive slugfest. The Witches outscored Mount Blue 18-7 in the second half. That was a matchup of two of the top teams in Class A North. Owen Fulton, who had all 3 points for Brewer. That's right, all three of Brewer's points in the fourth quarter to get them the win in that one. Mount Blue's Carter Norton made 3 3-pointers, scored a game high of 13 for Mount Blue. Importance with this one is, as I mentioned, Brewer remains undefeated at 9-0. They have a matchup this week against Hamden Academy on Tuesday. Hamden Academy improved to 6-2 with a 55-48 win over Oceanside. So that sets up a big one for Tuesday night. That's going to be in Brewer, a potential Class A North final preview. I'm looking forward to it. So far, this nice combination of Brewer with the experience and the youth has got them out to a 9-0 start here, Steve.
But they're winning games in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, they can score with Higgins and Youngs and all the other guys on the roster, and then they get a grind out victory like that over a good Mount Blue team. That's a good sign moving forward for the Witches.
Shout out to Coach Parker, coaching them up as Coach Parker always does, coaching up the kids.
What a turnaround, though! I mean, what were they 4-14 last year?
It might have been 3-13. It wasn't very many. They went through it after a state championship the year prior to that, but learned from that experience paying off this year. So shout out to Brewer. I'm trying to be in the building for Tuesday night. I just got permission from the missus for Tuesday night. I can go to the Brewer Hamden game. So I'm excited for that one. We talked about the Caribou boys or Caribou girls earlier, but the Caribou boys rolled this week as well. So earlier in the week, they rolled to a 52-point win over Foxcroft Academy. They had 5 players score in double figures as they won that one 88-36. Tristan Robbins leading the way with 16, Dakota Trombley with 12. Caribou's deep. They can put the ball in the hoop. Massive win there against Foxcroft Academy. Followed it up yesterday. Big road game at Orono. They pick up another win. They won that one 59-49. Tristan Robbins led the way with 29 points, 9 rebounds, had a vicious two-handed dunk in that game. Owen Corrigan chipped in with 20 for the Vikings. They improved to 8-1. You mentioned this off air. They will now host Presque Isle in a big rivalry game on Wednesday. Orono falls to 6-3. They play Holton on Tuesday at this point. But Caribou passed a big test this week with a massive road win over Orono. Your thoughts on that one?
I think it's significant because who was the team that eliminated Caribou the past 2 years at the tournament?
It would be the Red Rights.
Exactly. So I think it just kind of gets that monkey off their back. Like, all right, for Caribou, they're the highest scoring team in the state, I believe. They were averaging right around 79 points per game before the game against Orono. And this was just like Brewer. They grinded it out.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is important for Caribou to say, all right, we can outscore most teams, but maybe some nights the flow of the game is different. The tempo is not what we would like. We can still win a game in the half court. And that's what I think a lot of people think about Caribou. That, all they do is run and gun. No, they're a very good team in the half court set as well. Robbins is doing what he does. I mean, he's a complete player. I mean, he's got to be averaging 6 or 7 assists too. I mean, he's just a complete player, and he's got tons of talent around him. I mean, Owen Corrigan's having a huge year, shooting the ball really efficiently. I think he's over or pretty close to about 50% from 3-point range, which halfway through the season is ridiculous to still have that kind of
good
number.
Clip, yeah.
Yeah. And in Robbins, 21-9 against Orono. But yeah, they're deep. Landon Belanger's a guy, he only had 4 points, but he can drop 25 on you in any given night. So the Vikings, they're 8-1. I mean, had a tough loss down in Ellsworth, and they are, they're good. There's no surprise they went down to Orono and grinded out that victory.
Yeah, Orono, not an easy place to play either. That's a tough place to get a road win. They got some nasty fans. It's a tough little gym. So big win for the Caribou boys right there. Staying in Class B, another game of note from this past week. Old Town beat Herman 42-40. What is so significant about this one, Steve?
Well, Old Town got off to the slow start this year. And remember I said, chill, relax. And Old Town has, I think, got now 3 wins on the season. At the halfway point, they are one of those teams that you probably don't want to see come postseason time. because they got Emmett Bythe there.
Yeah, he's good.
And he's very good. That is a difficult matchup, and he can carry a team to a win any given night. And that's the story, I think, of Class B boys, is there are teams at the top where you look at and say, yeah, I think they have a chance to go all the way. But I'm telling you right now, there are some teams at the Class B boys ranks that you do not want to see in the first round. And one of those teams is Old Town.
There you go. So big win for them. Getting better at the right time. Let's drop it on the Class C. We talked about this a little bit at the top here when talking about the big performances for the past week. You were at this one. Fort Kent improves to 6-2 with a win at the Panther Palace. Is that what they really call it? The Panther Palace?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. 78-70 in the high scoring affair. 51 points from Jaleel Joseph, like we mentioned. My nephew Aiden Jeffers, 32 in that one.
I want to shout out this next guy you're about to put, Finn Kelly, 19 points off the bench, and he had just gotten back. I think he'd been battling some concussion issues. He was huge off the bench for Coach Sear. So I really want to make sure that Finn Kelly gets a mention on the podcast because he was awesome, and Mason Pelletier was too.
We've been seeing these big performances from Jaleel. What about the supporting cast in Central Aroostook? Is that an area to be a little bit concerned about, or is Jaleel just that good where he's just putting up these numbers?
Well, yeah, I mean, both. I mean, Jaleel is that good. I mean, he dropped 51 points, and I think he only had 1 3-pointer. So a lot of his damage was done in the mid-range area or down low in the post. Eventually, near the end of the game, Central Aroostook would just throw the ball in the air like they were throwing it to Jamar Chase in the back of the end zone, and Joseph would just go up, grab it, and lay it up and in.
Yeah.
You know, yes, they do need some assistance for Joseph. McCrum knocking down some 3-pointers, Woodworth as well. Whited, I think, is just going to stay out of foul trouble because I really think when Will Whited is on the floor, Central Aroostook is a very difficult team to beat. He's just been battling some foul trouble, but Joseph has been phenomenal. Whited, to me, is their X factor. If he's able to stay out of foul trouble and stay on the floor, Central Aroostook, although they're 3-4, they play a brutal schedule. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get any easier this week. They play Madawaska tomorrow, which is a game I have, and then they play Hodgdon. There's just no easy games for the Panthers, and they need all their guys to be locked in.
Jaleel, 51 in that one. Next highest score for Central Aroostook was McCrum with 7 in that game. So see what happens the rest of the way. You mentioned Madawaska, another team I want to mention. They beat East Grand. I believe this was yesterday with an 82-25 win to improve to 6-0. We talked about Madawaska in one of the opening episodes. Not sure what to expect. 6-0. Quinn Pelletier led the way with 14 yesterday, so he's getting it done. What can we say about Madawaska here? Are they legit, or is it more just a thing about scheduling so far?
Oh no, they're legit. They're legit. The most impressive game, victory for them so far has been on the road down in Hodgdon, which is a tough place to win.
Yep.
56-49. Isaac Bollier was the guy that really showed up there. He had 22 points, got them off to the real hot start in the first half. Quinn Pelletier, I mean, he gets all the headlines as the 8th grader and how good he is, and he should, but he does have, I mean, Coach Sean Pelletier has a terrific team as well. With Tebow, I mean, he's thrown down some thunderous.
I keep seeing dunks from Tebow.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, who the heck is this kid?
Yeah. Braden Pelletier as well. Jandro, Turner on the inside. Madawaska is legit. They're the real deal. And I think they're pretty young too. Tebow's their only senior. So Bollier's a junior. The Braden Pelletier a junior. Turner's a junior. Jandro a sophomore. And then we talk about, Quinn Pelletier's the 8th grader. So it's not just this year. The future looks good too for the Owls. How does that make you feel?
I'm all right because we got some youth in Fort Kent too. We're all right.
You do.
Yeah, we were supposed to play Madawaska right before Christmas. That game got rescheduled. So that's, I believe, January 20th now, or it's late January. So those teams are going to match up later on this month, and which should be a great game. So looking forward to that one.
Going to send Brady King up here for that one?
We talked about it, but he wants like per diem and mileage and stuff like that. And it's just not in the budget, that's a bit of a long haul. It's a bit of a long haul for Brady.
It is.
Let's go to the girls' side. I want to talk about one AA game. Bangor girls here in the town I live, so I got to give the Bangor girls some love. They beat Oxford Hills 40-39 in a huge win yesterday. With the 1 point win, Bangor improves to 5-3. They avenge a earlier season loss to Oxford Hills, in which they lost 47-43. Leading score for Bangor in that one, Delaney Hoare with 12 points. Shout out to Delaney. As I mentioned, I work with her dad, Avery. Shout out to them. But a big win for Bangor nonetheless. They overcame 25 points from probably the favorite to win Miss Basketball, Ella Pelletier. She missed the shot at the buzzer that would have won it for them. So don't look up. But Bangor all of a sudden sitting at number 4. Chevrolet has dropped 3 in a row, who was running through everybody early in this season. They sit at number 3 now. Edward Little, number 2, and Oxford Hills, number 1. So big win for the Rams. And they've showed that they can play with anybody in Class A Double North. They do play Edward Little one more time later on in the year, so a chance to move up. But it might not be Chevrolet like we thought. It might be a little bit more deep come tournament time. So shout out to the Rams in a big win for them. The Class A girls, Coney girls, we talked about a little bit earlier on in the season, had a big one yesterday. 57-53 over Mount Ararat. They improved to 8-1 in the season. Abby Morrill had 22 points. Morgan Fitchhorn, 12 points, 11 rebounds for Coney. That's the duo that got it done for them last year and got them to the state title game. So a massive win for them yesterday over a Mount Ararat team who figures to be in the mix in A South. They got 16 points and 6 rebounds from Kaylee Wag. Callie Pomalu had 12 points from Mount Ararat as well. Coney sits at number 2 behind undefeated number 1 Lawrence, who improved to 9-0 with a 62-37 win over Brewer. But those two teams will match up twice over the next 30 days. Coney will play Lawrence at home on the 28th of this month and then travel to Lawrence on February 4th. So those two teams are going to go head to head, but it's going to be interesting to see. We all think it's Lawrence's show to run away with, but Coney with a massive win and a chance to match up with Lawrence here pretty soon.
Got to wait that long though for them to play.
I know it's like 2 of the last 4 games of the year,
right? And they're not separated by very far.
No. The points are close. That's a huge win. Mount Ararat's going to win a ton of games, and they're going to be in the mix in A South. So massive win for the Coney girls yesterday. So shout out to them. We talked about Madeline Dupre at the top of the episode, getting the Big East Player of the Week. Her Caribou girls improved to 8-1 as they beat John Bapps 49-23. That game was played in Bangor at the Cross Center. It's Cross Insurance Center, so a chance for them to get on the tournament floor and pick up that win. Madeline Dupre, 16 points for the Vikings. Claire Catani led John Bapps with 10 in that one. But Steve, you follow these girls. You know the Caribou girls well. Your thoughts as they move to 8-1 so far in the season?
Yeah, Dupre is a bucket. That's Liv Adams played very well too yesterday. I think she had 14, and I talked about like Will Whited for Central Heuristic. I think Liv Adams is sort of the X factor for the Vikings, staying out of foul trouble, staying on the floor. Quinn Corrigan, a freshman. Lily Bell is a freshman. They've been impressive, kind of being thrown into this role as saying, hey, we have the best player in the class, help. Provide something, and they've done a tremendous job. So shout out to a couple of very impressive freshmen for the Vikings in Quinn Corrigan and Lily Bell, and getting Ainsley Karen back was a big boost as well. Brie Levesque as well, another guard too. So the Vikings off to the great start. No surprise to me that they're 8-1. They got a big matchup coming this week with the Wildcats. That game is on Tuesday night, and that game will be looked at quite extensively because the Wildcats are in the top 5 in Class B as well.
All right. So one more game I want to get to on the girls' side here before we take a look at the heel points. My Fort Kent Warriors hand Central Heuristic their first loss with a 50-32 win. Fort Kent improves to 7-1. Lily Oliver 20 in that one. So I don't know what you want to give us, Steve, on my Fort Kent Warriors. Or do you want to save it till we break down C, or do you want to add anything to that win for the Warriors?
Slow start. It was like they played, I think they were playing a triangle in 2, Central Heuristic, and that triangle was packed in quite a ways. We're daring somebody else from the Warriors to shoot the basketball, and then they were trying to, just take care of it. Don't let Oliver get out and transition. It was a close game throughout. The third quarter started. Emlyn Neto hit a couple threes back to back, and that really got the Warriors rolling. Just a slow start, but they played that 1-3-1. Oliver at the top of that zone is just got such long arms.
Yes.
Yeah, and just gets a ton of steals. The poor Kent, they are. Oliver's just, I mean, she's awesome, but Warnkin is when she's open,
Yeah.
and that's the triangle and two. The second one that wasn't on Oliver, it was just face guard Warnkin. Don't let her shoot, and because if she gets a second of daylight, it's going up and it's on point more than it's not.
There we go. Shout out to my Warriors. Big wins across the board for my Warriors this week. But I think we're at that point in the season, Steve, where the contenders are starting to show themselves. The pretenders are starting to show themselves. Teams maybe should start hitting the panic button because we are at about that halfway point. I know, like the first couple episodes, it was always like, it's early. You kept saying it's early, it's early. But I think now we could start actually looking at who's legit in these classes here. So we're just going to run down through them and get your thoughts. Class AA boys, the only team in our area is Bangor. Bit of a down year, so we're not going to worry about AA North. We'll let the guys on the starting five take care of that. But we will break down A North. So as I mentioned, Brewers sitting number 1 at 10-0. Messalonsky had a buzzer beater yesterday. They improved to 7-2. Mount Blue, number 3, and then Hamden Academy at number 4. Those are probably the 4 teams that have identified themselves as the real threats in A North. Your thoughts on how things are starting to shape up, Steve?
Yeah, Brewer, that was one of the teams where I talked about it in the preseason. I wanted to just kind of wait and see how they were going to be getting Ollie Higgins, who was such a, it was a hyped, freshman coming in after, a difficult season last year, but to come back now and to have the record they do. Messalonsky was a team I heard conflicting arguments about. Were they good? Were they bad? 7-2. And Hamden Academy, Camden Hills, I think I still believe that they can be there at the end of the season when you can throw a guy like Nolan Ames on the floor. I don't care what your record is. You have a chance. And they lost to Madomic Valley here by 12. Madomic Valley is one of the favorites in Class B South.
That was the big time hoops game of the week yesterday.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Yep. And I mean, Gabe Lash is awesome. And DePatsy and everybody. The Panthers from Madomic Valley are legit.
Yeah.
But they had talk back to Camden Hills, a nice victory over Messalonsky at home, 77-51. A close loss to Hamden, and then they had the 3 losses to start the season. So they're 3-2 over their last 5. But I think they're trending in the right direction. So I just want to make sure we keep an eye on the Windjammers.
And like I said, and the biggest takeaway is if you can throw the best player on the floor, especially in a tournament environment, you got a chance. So we'll see. Yeah.
And Hamden too. I mean, Broncos 6-2. That Hamden Brewer game on Tuesday.
It's gonna be big. It's gonna be a big one. That place gonna be rocking.
Yep.
Dropping down to B. Number 1, Ellsworth boys. Caribou number 2. Winslow surprisingly number 3. Not someone we've really talked about. Orno at number 4. Belfast 5. Herman 6. Aranacook 7, and Old Town rounding out the top 8. So your biggest takeaways from B North as we hit the halfway point here, Steve?
I think you have to say Ellsworth is legit a contender. I don't see any reason why you can't say, okay, we've seen enough from Ellsworth without Chance Mercier. And you saw that dunk on the alley-oop from Kyle Kenny against MDI in a hostile environment.
Big win for them. Big win for them on the road.
Absolutely. That's not an easy place to go play down on the island. So Ellsworth, definitely a contender. Caribou, those 2 have been the most impressive to me. Winslow's an unknown. Braden Roderick is a terrific player, and I don't want to discredit anything that Winslow or Roderick does. Just looking at their schedule, I wish they played some teams in the Big East. You know what I mean? I know it's a little bit of a trip for them, but that would give me more of a gauge of how does Winslow stack up to the rest. Because I cover the Big East primarily. How do these guys stack up? Because the Big East to me is loaded every single night. Orno at 6-3, Belfast, same thing. Herman, 5-3, tough loss to Old Town, but I can't figure Herman out. I don't know what to say because I look at their schedule. They lost by 4 to Holton, then they beat MDI, beat Foxcroft by 10, they beat Bucksport by 14, then they turn right around and 10 days later and they lose by 1. Then they beat Orno by 19. Granted, it was without Brady Hughes, and then they lose to Old Town. So I just don't. I look at their point totals, low 50s, mid low 40s. That's the way Herman plays.
And they got a stretch coming up. They play John Baptist in the 7th, and then it's Presque Isle, Ellsworth, Caribou, MDI, Old Town.
Yeah.
So that stretch is going to tell us all we need to know right there, I think.
Maranacook, another team. I mean, they're 5-3. They're always going to be around. Just like they were last year as the 2 seed. They had the 9-point loss to MCI in overtime, but then beat Madison by 10. They got Spruce Mountain on the 14th. That's a game to watch. That's the one time they played this year. But on January 14th at 6:30, they will be traveling to take on the Spruce Mountain Phoenix. Old Town, Erskine, MCI, Presque Isle, MDI, Holton, 13. So the top 12 make the postseason. MDI with James Witham again. I'm just looking at some of these teams. Presque Isle played really well this week. They had the win over John Baptist in overtime, which I talked about. Cruz Casavan had the 17, and then yesterday at home against Washington Academy, beat them by 19. Kasembua had 22, and Brent Greenlaw played awesome. He finished with 20, and then Casavan off the bench had 12. The Wildcats can get 3 guys in double figures. Presque Isle is another team that they're interesting to me. I'm a Wildcat, but they're interesting.
Of course they are. Of course
they are. Like, they lose by 30 to MDI and Ellsworth, and then they come back home and they looked awesome yesterday against WA. They did. They looked awesome. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that. They shot the ball well. They played great defense. That 1-3-1 zone. Presque Isle is just, they're long, they're athletic, and they've got the ultimate test coming on Wednesday. That Caribou Presque Isle, that gym will be loud and exciting. Those are the best games of the year. I don't care what the records are. You roll them in a paper, chuck them out the window. When Caribou and Presque Isle play, if you can't be there, put it on WHOU, tune in, because both Tuesday and Wednesday are going to be super fun.
I got Caribou by 25 in that one.
Oh. Now, Coach Kingsbury is going to put that all over the locker room.
That's fine. I got Caribou by 25. Coach Corrigan, don't let me down. Let's get it done. Let's drop it down to C Boys here. A team we haven't really talked about that much. Madawaska, number 1 at 8-0. My 4 Kent Warriors, number 2. Machias 3, Mount View 4. Madawaska, who we talked about, undefeated 6-0. They're currently 5th. Followed by Calais, Sumner, and Hodgdon to round out the top 8. So, Steve, what can you tell us about Madawaska at this point? 8-0 in the season.
Yeah, we talked about Cooper McCarthy a little bit in the preseason. He was leading the conference in assists and steals. Terrific guard. Andrew Oliver, a wonderful shooter from the perimeter. Weatherby on the inside. It's Coach Mahaney taking over for Coach McDormand in his first year at the helm. Not a bad start. Madawaska, 100% contender. Fort Kent, I would call them a contender as well. Machias, contender. Mount View, 4-5, not 8-0. We know they challenge themselves. They play a difficult schedule, and when they come to tournament, they will be tested. So Mount View contender, I would call Madawaska one too. Hodgdon at an 8 in the 8 spot right now. If they end up 8th, that is a dangerous 8 seed right there.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Mount View schedule. You mentioned the schedule they play. They played Winslow, Erskine, Belfast, Madomic.
All B teams so far.
Mount Abram, who's not B, but a tough team as well.
Yep.
So just a tough schedule. So they'll be ready come tournament time.
They'll be tested. 100%.
They will be tested. So Class C, there we go. Round things out. Let's drop it down to D here. Let's see what we got. Leading the way. Skank, number 1. Katahdin 2, Southern Aroostook 3, Central Aroostook 4. The defending Class D champs, Bangor Christian at number 5, followed by Easton, Lee Academy, and Stearns to round out the top 8. Your takeaways from D at this point, Steve.
Skank had that big win over Machias. I can't remember what date that was, but I think that was while we were on break. Was it? Yeah, December 27th.
Yeah.
54-50 at home. They beat Machias, and then they beat Bangor Christian on the road, 44-31, and then another Class C team in Dexter, 51-29. So Skank with Owen Wyman looks all like the 1 seed. And I heard in the preseason that they were really, really good. Well, this solidifies that. Katahdin at 6-2. I talked about them coming into the season. I thought they would be at the top of the standings. Southern Aroostook kind of is a surprise. Now, a victory on the road against Hodgson, which is a Class C team,
Yep.
that's going to jump you up the standings no matter what. Now, that Trafton Russell knocked down that game winner. That was huge for the Warriors.
Big shot.
Big shot. Central Heuristic 3-4. They're, again, I talked about it. Tough schedule. They'll be tested come tournament time or if they get a prelim. Bangor Christian, always throw them in the mix. Easton, that's a team I want everybody to watch out for. Chase Fewelling is excellent. They have plenty of talent to do some damage in the Class D ranks. They sit in the 6th spot. Lee Academy is a team I have not seen yet. I will see them on Saturday as they come to the Panther Palace to play the Panthers. Stearns, Jonesport Beals, Washburn at 4-4. There's the Class D tournament will be fun. But Skank really to me might be just like they did last year. They separated themselves where I thought they were the favorite, but then Bangor Christian comes in, spoils the party. Can be done again.
You mentioned the Easton game this week. Is it at Easton?
Which one?
The Easton game that you're doing.
I'm not doing an Easton game.
I thought you said you're doing Easton. I thought you said you're going to see Easton this week.
Lee Academy.
Oh, Lee Academy. All right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give Easton some love. If folks have never seen what the Easton gym, just one of one in terms of the look and style of that gym.
There's 3 rows on each side, and it looks shaped like an old potato barn.
Yes, it is one of one. If you've never seen it, definitely worth checking out. It's pretty awesome.
Their next game, actually, and it's a game to watch. It'll be at Easton at Fort Kent on January 9th.
I'm going to predict the Warriors in that one. I'm going to predict the Warriors to take that one.
You're just giving everybody bulletin board material. That's what
I'm trying to be that guy.
Was it last year you said F Caribou?
I might have said something like that. Then we got beat by like 30. So
you got smoked.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the girls' side now. So I already touched on AA North and what that picture currently looks like. So we'll take it down to A North. Lawrence girls rolling 9-0, number 1. Coney, like I mentioned, second at 8-1, followed by Gardner, Hamden Academy, Camden Hills, Skowhegan, Brewer, and then Nokomis at number 8. I always find it interesting when I pull up the Class A ranks because it's only like 10 teams deep. Like it's like gotta be like the smallest class out of all the classes in the state. But Lawrence at the top, still sticking with Lawrence. I don't know about you, Steve.
I mean, I don't see any reason not to. That's kind of until a team gives me a reason not to stick with them. But look at their margin of victories. The closest game was Oxford Hills, who's number 1 in
AA North.
Right. Yeah. And they beat them by 9.
Yeah.
Every other game has been, there's a 50-point win in there. A couple of them beat Brewer by 31, beat Nokomis by 21, beat Hamden by 14. I don't see how you cannot. Now, when they play Coney on the 28th, and then we can say that's really, I only see Coney as a threat. And that was the team that beat him last year.
Yeah. And I mentioned that only like 10 teams in A North, but what I like about it is they pretty much all play each other. So you kind of know where these teams rack up in terms of head to head. Let's go ahead and drop it down to B North. So we already talked about the girls from Caribou, number 1 at 8-1. Erskine Academy, number 2, someone we haven't talked a lot about. MDI 3, your Prescott Wildcats, number 4. Ellsworth at 5, and then it's Old Town, and Maranacook and John Bapps to round out the top 8. Your thoughts on the way Class B North is looking right now?
Man, MDI took a while to play their first game, but off to the impressive 5-1 start, and one of those wins includes a victory over the Caribou Vikings, which was a 52-45 victory. Then they beat Herman, who's a very good team, by 9, and then beat Ellsworth by 6. And Ellsworth, you talk about the injury bug, it's still hitting them. Like it's gotten worse.
What do we got now?
I don't know. I was talking to Coach Pooler a little bit earlier, and he said he's never seen anything like this. But that Sargent went down with a knee injury. Cameron Clow is bothered by something in her neck, and then it doesn't look like Addison Atherton's finger is healing right way. So it just seems to continue to just pile on the poor Eagles. I feel awful for them.
Yeah.
But you gotta move on, right? You gotta keep going forward and just next person up. Try to keep rolling, and they're still 5-3, right?
Yeah. So we didn't know at the time last week on the last episode we brought it up. Abby Radell's injury, is she out for the year? Is that confirmed at this point?
I
Or still
don't
don't know?
think. Yeah, I don't think she'll be back. I haven't heard anything other than the fact that she had broke her foot or ankle and that she may need surgery. And I haven't gotten an update since then. I haven't seen her on the floor. So I know Raydell's not back yet. But if you talk about the rest of the league, Prescal, yeah, 6-3, big win over WA yesterday. They had a loss to John Bapps at home.
Yeah, I was going to say, go ahead. Your Warrior or your Wildcats are in the top 4. So go ahead and
Yeah.
You could show them some love. It's okay. Go ahead.
Well, so last year I talked about them, and then they started to go downhill. So I told Coach Fawelling maybe I should just stay away and not talk about the Wildcats this year, and I really haven't. And halfway through the season, they're 6-3. So they got the big matchup with Caribou on Tuesday. That will be once again. They have a lot of eyes on that game. Depre, defensively, I'll be curious to see how Prescal tries to defend her. Carlin Buck, I think, did a great job on Claire Gattani until she got into some foul trouble. That's a name people should know. And the Wildcats with the Curtis sisters, Marion Young's been playing really well. Brianna Burlock, who's a freshman. So the Wildcats, top 4, I think the 8 seed last year. And over the past couple years, I think they're the 8 seed. So in the top 4, that game on Tuesday will be big. Who do you got in that game?
I'm gonna go Caribou by it's in Prescott, right?
No, they're both in Caribou.
Oh, they're both in Caribou. I'm gonna go Vikings by 15 in that one.
Vikings by 15. All right.
Vikings by 15.
I'm just gonna write this down.
Right?
I don't like to do predictions. People think I care who wins.
Leave it up to me. I'll make the
really
predictions.
Don't. What's that?
Leave it up to me. I'll make the predictions. So I got the boys by 25 and I got the girls by 15.
Caribou boys by 25. Okay.
Yep.
And Caribou girls by 15. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, those aren't out of the realm of possibility.
I know. We'll see what happens.
I'm not making predictions. Don't look at me.
That's fine. You just call the game. You just show up and call the game. That's all you
call
gotta
the game. I will just say nice things about the kids, and that's all I care about. I don't like to ruffle feathers.
There you go. Let's drop it down to C. So we mentioned this team at the top. PVHS, Penobscot Valley, just rolling at 8-0. They're number 1 in Class C. My 4 Kent Warriors number 2. Mount View 3. Manawancook 4. Calais 5. Machias 6. And then Central and Dexter rounding out at 7 and 8. We mentioned PVHS had the big win over the defending Class C state champs Dexter this week. And so at the top, we both kind of predicted this one at the end of the season, and they're making us look good right now.
I mean, look at the points, like 76, 62, 46 against Manawancook, but 60, 77, 71, 65, and 99.
Eesh.
And look what they're giving up. They haven't given up more than 30. That is straight up dominance.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, you're right. That's getting it done.
Any teams that stand out to you or a little bit of a surprise as we hit the halfway point in C North?
I wish I could say yes, but not really.
Surprised at all by 4 Kent 7-1?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Nope.
Makes me feel better.
No, not at all. Manawancook at 6-1. Calais, Machias, Central at 5-2 with the Allen sisters. No, doesn't. Dexter, nope. Nothing in Class C is. I'm looking at that and going, yep, makes sense.
A little bit different than years past. I feel like the past couple of years it's been 2 or 3 teams at the top, but it looks like PVHS has clearly separated themselves from the rest of the field.
I mean, they would. I think they could compete in Class A. I think they're that good.
They're good.
And they're right on the cusp of being Class D. They're like 2 or 3 kids from being Class D. I mean, they're that good.
Yeah. Shout out to Coach Case getting it done. Hopefully this is the year that they can pull through and get that gold ball, get it back up there. So what's the town? It's not Milo. What town are they in?
Howland.
That's what it is.
They're the Howlers.
Howland. Yeah, the Howland Howlers.
Yeah.
I was drawing a blank. I should know this. I'll do better next week.
That's right.
My apologies to Howland, Maine. Let's drop it down to D girls and Bangor Christian number 1 at 7-2. Skank number 2. Central to Rustic 3. Wisdom hanging around at number 4. And then we got Shed Washburn, Southern Aroostook, and then Ashland rounding up the top 8. So your thoughts. This has been Southern Aroostook's region 6 years, 5 years, 6 years.
And then it was Washburn's before then.
Washburn's before that. So, I think we're going to have somebody new come out of D North. Your thoughts
Yep.
on the region?
I think you will. So the top two teams, Bangor and Skank, just played the other day on Saturday or on Friday. And it was a 47-26 victory for Bangor Christian. So shout out Coach Reed, Kevin Reed, head coach, the BC Patriots.
Getting it done.
What's that?
He's getting it done.
He sure is. Skank at 5-2. Central Aroostook just suffered their first loss the other day to the Warriors, a Class C team. They play Madawaska tomorrow, then Hodgson, Lee, Katahdin again, Fort Fairfield. The Panthers they'll be fine. No panic button there for the Panthers. Wisdom 5-1. Ava Lerman shed big win for Washburn the other day at home against Fort Fairfield, who was 5-3, who was 5-2 at the time in the Class C ranks, 32-30. So that jumped the Beavers all the way up to the top 6 positions, and Southern Aroostook still there in the top 8. Ashland didn't have a team last year. Is 8th at 5-3. So shout out to Coach Troms and the Hornets. And
Hornets of Ashland. Yeah.
Right. Jonesport Beals, they're 3-4. They sit in 11th right now. That's a dangerous team with Mia Mills. She can score a lot.
And they've got Bangor Christian on the 11th coming up soon here. So, all right.
I think Jonesport Beals plays a pretty tough schedule, if I'm not mistaken. Machias Class C, Sumner's Class C. They beat Deer Isle, Woodland, lost to Woodland, Narragansett. They beat them. They're going to play Calais, Sumner again. They play a lot of Class C schools.
So there you go, folks. There we are at the halfway point. You mentioned the big rivalry game this week coming up, Caribou, Presque Isle, boys and girls this week. What else you got on the docket this week for big games for folks to watch out for?
The Hamden Brewer game.
Yes, Tuesday night.
That is one to watch out for, most definitely. And then I've got the Madawaska and Central Aroostook boys tomorrow night. That is a matchup between, I think, 4 in Class D and then 5 in Class C. They're pretty close. I can't remember what we said earlier. It's one to watch.
Biggest takeaways from the first half of the season, Steve? What's been the biggest surprise to you so far, you think?
We talked about it earlier, but I'm just amazed at some of the point totals.
Yeah.
The level of talent in the North at every level, in both male and female, is remarkable. Yeah. Just some of the individual talent is just fun to watch.
Well, it makes your job a whole lot more fun, right? When you get to call a game and get some individual brilliance.
Yeah, I mean, when you can, we'll start with Caribou with Depre and Robbins, and then you go to Presque Isle with Bua and Jan Curtis, and then you go down with Jeffers up north and Lily Oliver, and you got in Hodgson there's Carliglio and Tuttle, and it's just you can go to any school, and even downstate in Ellsworth with King and Grindle and Kyle Kenny, and then James Witham and MDI and Emmett Byther in Old Town and Brady Hughes in Orono. I mean, it just doesn't stop. I'm forgetting a ton of people, but that's where I'm just saying every night I have a team and they got just a star player.
Yeah.
And I love to see it. It makes my job a hell of a lot more exciting.
A lot more exciting. You did mention one thing you wanted to start seeing more of, though. You mentioned it to me this week. You want to bring back the mid-range. You want to elaborate on that at all?
Well, I know analytics is a big thing, and I'm not against analytics or the numbers per se. I think it's important to have numbers in the proper context now. The NBA, I don't think really applies to Maine high school basketball. So
a little bit different.
A little bit. So I have kids. I have an 8th grade. I have a 13-year-old son. And the first thing he and his friends do when they go to the gym is they grab a ball and it's right to the 3-point line. And I get it. It's worth more. Everybody does it. However, I think there is still value in a mid-range jump shot from 15 to 17 feet. Cruz Casavant yesterday gets to the 3-point line, ball fake, defender flies by, takes one dribble, pull up, buries it. It's just an added element to a versatile offensive game that is, to me, important. And nobody likes the mid-range anymore. I do. And people, of course, come at me. My favorite player ever is Carmelo Anthony.
Mr. Mid-Range.
He was a mid-range assassin. You could give him the ball 15 feet away. You could face up, couple jab steps, face up jumper. And I know most kids nowadays, when I say mellow, they think of LaMelo Ball. They don't think of the first one.
Yeah.
But I just think that, you know, you watch it. I can't. Like, I have a hard time watching the NBA nowadays. I don't have any player I really cheer for. But I watch the Celtics, man. I know they're good, but 51, 52 threes a game.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I watched like 3 minutes of a game and they shot like 11 threes, I think, in the 3 minutes between the two teams. I'm thinking, my goodness, run some like different offense here. Yeah, back to the basket game, even. Like, I like a good player with, you know, some footwork in the post. I personally like to watch that. And I think that is, and I always make sure to, you know, credit kids. There's actually a player for the Herman girls, Madeline Tracy, which I guess her father works with you.
Yep. Shout out to
well.
TJ. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Well, she knocked down a few mid-range jumpers in Prescott, and I talked about it on the air. Like, I love it. Like, I like kids that show off that type of game. So I put it out on Twitter, and I got a lot of feedback about, you know, Leo McNabb and Nolan Ames, but I don't know. That's one of my things. So just, if you're a good mid-range jump shooter, you're probably going to be my favorite player. That's all I'm going to say.
There we go. This segment was called Old Man Steve, and we're looking for a sponsor for this segment. We're going to make this a recurring segment where Steve just vents and reminisces about the good old days.
I'm only 35. Okay. I'm younger than you. But there's a lot of, I have ideas about how I would, you know, how the game should be different. I think there should be a restricted area underneath the basket. And I don't know why that isn't, you know, a rule yet in Maine high school basketball. I think that's an easy fix. Grab some tape or a can of paint, get it done, because should not have kids being rewarded for charges underneath the basket.
Agreed. At least we don't have to deal with...
Get rid of the flaw pointing. Get rid of it.
Get rid of it. There we go. Say that for next week, Steve. Say one thing per episode. All right. We can't have you just going off all night here. Save it for next week. Any other takeaways before we get up out of here for this week's episode?
The grind starts.
Yeah, nonstop, pretty much now through early March. So time to settle in and watch a lot of basketball here. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of Northbound. Shout out to our presenting sponsor once again, Katahdin Trust, community banking at its best. Shout out to Steve for making it happen this week. Our apologies once again for the 2-week hiatus, but as he did mention, it's grind time. We're here from now every week until the end of probably mid-March, maybe even later. We'll see what happens. But thank you for listening. Make sure to tune in next week for another episode of Northbound. Until then, for Steve, myself, we'll see you next week.